Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the ErgoTech IT22. This is a smart cloud AI translator that has 43 languages, including built-in offline translation between English and Chinese, and it also has built-in Wi-Fi, so it relies on internet connectivity to translate the other 42 languages. It also includes many dialects, for example, Cantonese and Taiwanese, so on and so forth. What's really interesting here is it's basically running on a version of Android, so it reminds me of just a very small or tiny smartphone because it actually has a touchscreen display that you can interact with. It's an IPS panel, it's capacitive, and you can use it to access a very modified interface that's dedicated exclusively for translating purposes. Now, if you guys remember, actually a few months ago, we did a review on a Xiaomi translator, which is actually about the same size and form factor, and it's actually about half the price at around $70, whereas this one here is $120, give and take. The reason why it's more expensive is, first of all, it has an actual Android operating system and touchscreen compared to that one, which can only connect using Bluetooth to your existing smartphone. So the difference here is even if you go offline on this, at least you can still access some translations, for example, between English and Chinese, which doesn't require internet connectivity. Whereas with Xiaomi's version, it's basically a remote for your phone. You can essentially get the same function if you download a translating app on your smartphone because it still needs the phone to work. It's just a microphone and speaker, whereas this is truly a dedicated product. It does have a dual-core processor, technically 1.3 gigahertz, 512 megabytes of RAM, 4 gigs of built-in storage, which contains all of the offline translations. It technically runs on a version of Android 6.0, and translation engines that it's relying on when you're connected to Wi-Fi include Google, Baidu, so on and so forth. It includes omnidirectional microphones to pick up the sound from both you, the speaker, and the person who's listening, so the two of you can have a full conversation. Accessories include a micro USB cable for charging, you get a lanyard strap for handling it, there's also a soft carrying pouch, and a quick instruction manual printed in English. Up against a modern Android smartphone that has a 6-inch display, you can see how it's a lot smaller by comparison, about the same size as a digital voice recorder or a small TV remote control. The body of the unit is made out of plastic, however, which is different from Xiaomi's that was made from aluminum, so that one had a slightly better construction. Overall, though, it still feels solid enough. Now, below the 2-inch display, we have access to the 2 microphone keys. The first one here is for you, so the language that you're speaking. And then the other person speaking Chinese can press on the second button to talk in Chinese or whatever their language is. On the side here, we have a dedicated power key. You can tap on it to wake up the display. There's also controls for the volume. And on the very top here, we have both a set of microphones as well as a speaker. There's a 3.5mm headphone jack if you don't want the translator to be talking out loud. You can also rely on built-in Bluetooth to pair some wireless earbuds to have the translation work in privacy. On the bottom here, we have the second set of microphones for you to speak into along with the speaker, and a micro USB port for charging, and on the back we have the company's logo and another loud speaker. So turning the unit on, as aforementioned, it really is just running on Android, which is pretty cool to see it being embedded onto all types of smart products these days, whether it's refrigerators, printers, or translators like this, aside from only smartphones. There is no way of accessing, for example, the drag down notification shade or additional apps, because all of the processing and UI is locked down to just the translation functions. There's an oversized control that you can tap on to turn on Wi-Fi to connect to the internet. If you are again translating between other languages, tap on settings to change things like Bluetooth profile and other firmware related information. I can also use the 5-way navigation toggle below if I don't want to rely on the touchscreen or if I find it to be too small to click along. It's pretty tactile and responsive, and it's easy to use, so you can use mechanical keys as opposed to the touchscreen if you want to. Now the next key here is for recording. Now recording is basically if you're not doing a live translation between two people, but if you are wanting to record maybe a TV show or a longer script or someone else's conversation, you can tap on it, it basically records it into the memory and then plays it back for you. It's a longer file, you can see the transcription in terms of what they're saying in words, and you can also play it back as a sound recording as well. And of course, translation is for shorter phrases and conversations between two people. So in this translation mode, we can see that my default language is set to English, but I can easily change that if I want to by opting for Chinese, for example, or UK English. I would simply change the accent that I'm speaking in so that it can recognize it. Japanese, French, German, Spanish, you can see Russian, even Canadian English, a lot of dialects that it's able to pick up and still process. Korean, so basically a lot of the common languages you'll find on board as you're traveling across Asia, across Europe, and North America. So no real complaints there. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep English for now. Same thing goes with the other side. You can change the language if you wanted to. Now I can also tap on the middle key here. It will simply switch that around so that now my default language is Chinese. That will then translate my Chinese into English for someone else to hear. I can toggle it back and forth there. I can swipe over to the left here to see favorites. What that means is if you're doing a translation such as, let's try hello, it's popped on here. So if we tap on it, it says 你好, which is hello in Chinese. So it will, first of all, read that back, but if I want to favorite it, I can simply long hold on this. I can add to my favorites, and now this phrase is in my favorite list that I can keep, so I can tap on it again just to have the translator speak in the other language. Now I just tapped on the other side and said something in Chinese, which is 我可以帮助你吗, which is can I help you? And it's
Can I help you?
It's going to also process that, and you can see it works just fine. So all of the conversations or text boxes which are said in Chinese will be, of course, on the right side of the screen, and all of the English ones that you press on the left key here will be on the left side of the screen. For the most part, I find the translation accuracy to be quite good, which really isn't that surprising because if it's just relying on some AI engines like Google Translate, Baidu Translate, those are getting better day by day. They are still not perfect, but they're getting better, and everything is pretty understandable. Now, the only downside is I find the speed of the translations in the offline mode, which is the English to Chinese, to be kind of slow. So you tap on it, you have to wait about 3 seconds for it to translate, which is fine, but it could be a little awkward as you're just sitting there and waiting for it to process. So here's a quick demo. I want to buy some dinner, please. Right, so now I've stopped the recording of the mic, and now again, it's still processing the translation. So this is again, taking a few seconds for it to finish. So there we go. And again, it's perfectly correct as far as the accuracy is concerned, but you're sitting there waiting a little bit. The sound can be controlled on the side here. The speakers do get extremely loud at the maximum volume. It almost distorts a little bit, so I often just keep it down a notch unless I'm in a really crowded environment. And the microphones are doing a really good job of picking up my voice, even if I'm a little bit further away with the dual mics both on the bottom as well as on the top. So the good thing is it's extremely simple to use because this is basically the extent of all its features. Again, I can choose a different language other than English, for example, perhaps Spanish here, translated to Chinese, and this will just rely on the internet completely to do the translation. But that's basically it. If I go back into this main page, I can't really access any additional features. So very simple and straightforward, and there's really no inconsistencies as far as the software is concerned. So as a demo of another language, perhaps Spanish to Chinese. So again, we're using Wi-Fi right now. Prueba uno, dos, tres. And we can see how it's just a lot faster to respond. It took almost no time at all to translate successfully. But again, the translation in this case is actually a little bit strange, but it's trying to intuitively process it. I was just trying to say test 1, 2, 3, like mic test 1, 2, 3. But in Chinese, it's actually saying that this is the 123rd test or experiment. But still is, of course, a very valid interpretation. 我正在评价这个产品. So that's just saying I'm currently reviewing or testing this product. And there we go. The recognition is perfect. I can tap on it. And again, it sounds perfect as well. So it works very well as far as accuracy is concerned. So that's pretty much it as far as our hands-on review of this AI cloud translator. I would say its biggest limitation is that for the 42 other languages, it still relies on the cloud. So it still needs an active internet connection. Even though you don't need to bring your phone with you anymore because it's a dedicated console, you still need to be connected to a hotspot for it to function. And sometimes if you're traveling, you're in a remote area, that's not going to happen. So I do wish there was the ability for you to have offline translations for all of the languages, or if they allow you to download that in a future firmware update, that would be great. So for road warriors looking for a modern translator translator that is going to support various languages across Europe, across Asia, has a nice form factor, is comfortable, easy to use, and is very accurate. And this might be something to take a closer look at. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the ErgoTech Cloud AI Mini Translator. This is the IT022.